Chat. Oh my goodness, it has been way too long. I'm so excited to be back, y'all. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I made one of these episodes, but uh, it's so good to be back. I got on campus a couple months, or not months, it's crazy, a couple weeks ago. We had a little like job orientation for my desk job, but I was still going back and forth from Purdue to Indy because like I only had to be here a certain amount of days and a certain amount of hours. It was weird. I crashed at one of my friend's place for a little bit just because it was easier for the day to day thing. And then I think that following week, I was able to move into my apartment, which I was there for like a week. And then this week, classes started. So we're officially in the full swing of things again. But oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be back in this room. All the mics, the chairs, the headphones, the random tripods I have yet to use. But I'm just so excited to be back today, y'all. Oh, it's so good. Today, we're going to talk about something, a little emo, not going to lie to you, but we're going to talk about therapy. First of all, I feel like therapy as a concept is becoming more and more widely accepted by society, as it should be. Why would you be penalized for getting the help that you need? I'll never know. But for a while, at least in my experience, there's been kind of like a taboo kind of vibe around therapy, and I've really never understood why. But I did take advantage of therapy a few times, and while I would recommend therapy for people, I personally had an awful experience. That's not to say I'm turned off. Like, if I found a good quality therapist, I would 100% go again. Do I have the time to look for one? Honestly, yes. Do I want to? No, I'm lazy. But alas, until then, maybe someday. But as of right now, I am not in therapy. So I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, okay? But today we're going to be talking about my experience, which may have to do why I'm not in it, at least right now. So I was in therapy for a few different reasons. The first being chronic anxiety. Oh, what a time. First of all, this is what, circa sixth grade? I think so. I'm going to just tell y'all the story that made me realize, okay, shoot, I have an issue. Because, like, one thing about me, I was always an anxious child, but I think it stemmed more from, like, academic and athletic validation more so than, like, a chronic thing that I was dealing with. And so I always just assumed, oh, well, all my friends are like this. This is normal. No, we were all messed up. Shout out to the gang. But there was one particular instance where I was like, okay, I actually do in fact have a problem. I need help. And it was sixth grade. We were doing math questions, but it wasn't like sixth grade math. We were getting tested on high school stuff. And there was one quiz that day. My teacher wasn't there. It was some random sub. And I'm doing my little quiz and I don't know the answer to anything. And I'm like, I start panicking. Because one thing about me, me and an F, we don't know each other. Shoot, we do not. And so I was panicking, freaking out. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do because I don't know the answer and I'm not taking this quiz. So I flag the sub over and I'm like, hey, I really gotta go to the bathroom. And she's like, girl, this is a quiz. Can it wait? And I said, it's an emergency. And she was like, okay, fine. So I go to the bathroom and I just bawl my eyes out. Oh my goodness, it was so sad. I'm like on the toilet, right? Looking underneath to see if anybody else is in there, like looking at the feet or whatever. And then I heard somebody walk in and I was like, oh shoot. So I'm like trying to stop myself breathing so that way I won't start like hyperventilating. I don't know what I thought I was doing, but it was crazy. It was diabolical. And then after I got my little cry out, I was like, well, where do we go from here? Because I cannot go back to class. Like, what in the world? And so I literally just start wandering the halls. I'm like, Anna, it gets to a point like, go talk to somebody. And so I'm like, let me go talk to my counselor. So I walk over to the office and it has a sign on the front that says out to lunch or something. And I'm like, you're joking. But I was like, well, maybe I can just ask like an office person and they can like redirect me or tell me to come back. They were also out to lunch. And I'm like, well, maybe I can go to the nurse because like I do have a stomach problem right now. I can't breathe. Out to lunch. I was like, are you for real right now? Come on. And so I continued to just aimlessly walk around the hallways. And I eventually walked past a hallway for, I think it was a group of fifth grade teachers, or maybe it was sixth grade, but it was on like the non-high ability side. I don't remember. But I walk in and I see one of the teachers who I knew from like, I can't remember if she had a daughter who played softball with me. I forget how I know her, but I knew her. And I was like, she goes, Anna, what are you doing here? And I just start bawling my eyes out again. She's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? Like, tell me everything, da da da. And so I honestly don't know if I told her anything. I just started crying. I was like, I need the counselor. I don't know what's going on. Like, I just can't. And I think she's the one who called my dad. I never actually found out. Not exactly something that was on my mind at the moment. And eventually he came in, and coincidentally, the counselor's office all of a sudden opened up. So I don't know if she made a phone call or what the correlation was, but shout out to her. We love her for that. But my dad comes in, and it's the counselor, me, and my dad all sitting in her office. And bless her soul, oh my goodness, I hope she's, doing her job and whatnot, unless she's moved on, of course. She was zero help. She was like telling me to breathe, count to 5. And I was like, this is what I tell my brother when he's having a fist fight with me. This is not what I'm dealing with, girl. I don't know what to tell you there. And so I'm trying to hear her out because, again, I know at this point I need help and like anything would help at this point. And to her credit, breathing would have helped me because, shoot, I was not doing that. And so I'm doing my best to listen to her. And we come up with this like little card that I can show to my teachers where I just need to take a break. And I'm like, what? How is this dealing with this? Is like a band-aid. This is not fixing the issue. And so my dad's like, yeah, we're gonna get some therapy going on here. Like, we need to get this resolved. Like, this is a problem. This is not just some temporary fix. And I was like, snaps, absolutely, okay. And so she's like, well, I can send a referral. I know this one girl. And we're like, okay, cool, whatever. And so I think it was either like a week or two, maybe a month. And it's time to go see her. And of course, I'm a little nervous, right? Because I've never been to therapy before. And her office is right by a Mexican restaurant. Oh my goodness. But at this time, I didn't like Mexican food. Ugh, tragic. So we couldn't even go there after. But anyway, we go up to her office, and it's so cutesy and quaint. I'm like, oh my goodness, this girlie gets it. And so we start chatting. Immediately, we're kikiing. I'm like, girl, I like you. This is fun. Like, what a good conversation. And then, like, we start talking about my issues. And I'm like, this is great conversation, but this is not fixing anything. This is my friend. This is my girl. This is not like my therapist. You know what I mean? And I can't remember if it was me or my dad. I honestly think it might have been me. I was like, do you know anyone else? I was like, looking back now, so out of pocket. But shoot, one thing about me, I'm not fake. And so either I asked it or my dad asked it or she suggested it because she could sense the tension, or not tension, but like, I don't want to say dissatisfaction because like she was so sweet. I think I needed a different therapist. And that's one of the most important things about therapy too. I feel like it is a pretty wide consensus that like people don't take it personally if you're not the right fit, because it has to be a good fit for both the therapist and for yourself in order for it to be as successful as possible. And any therapist just wants you to be better. It's not like, oh no, I need you as a client. It's like, no, I just want you to grow and evolve and heal. That's always the goal. Shout out to therapists everywhere. But yeah, that was not going to work for me. And so she was like, well, I can refer you to one of the guys who trained me. He's very wise, whatever, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, cool. We'll give him a whirl. And so I pull up to his office, not next to a La Hacienda. So tragic. But it was like this house. And I was like, does he live here? Like, I don't know. It felt very off. It did not feel welcoming and inviting. There was no pink signage like with the other girl. And I walk in and like, oh, do you want a glass of water? And I was like, okay, sure. But like, I'm watching them just pull the Brita out the fridge. I'm like, I can't tell because it was like a 1-story building, and I thought he had like a pretty big family. So I don't know if he lived there with his family or if he just like rented out half of it for his office, or if it's a whole separate building and like other people work there, because his receptionist was like in another office. So I'm like, I don't know what the dynamic. I was just confused, honestly. But I was like, you know what, Anna, this is what the second therapist. You don't have a baseline. Just go with the flow. Whatever, it's fine. And so he needs a name. We're gonna call him Jimmy. He needs a J name because he wronged me, and his actual name does in fact start with a J, but it's not Jimmy. But anyway, so Jimmy and I start talking, and I see a bowl of Starbursts, and it feels like a freaking test. I was like, is this a test to my self control? Because like one thing about me, the flavors I like on Starburst, hot take, I think the pink ones taste nasty, but that's like the universal favorite flavor. I love the orange and the yellow. I think they're the best. And so those ones are always available. And of course, this time was no different. So I was like, shoot, do I take one? Like, no one else is going to eat them. It would be wasteful. It would be an economic disservice not to do so. I don't know. And then he was like, oh, you can just take some. And I was like, okay, word. So I start chowing down on the Starburst. And he's like, so why are you here today? And I was like, uh, I don't know. I thought we was finna figure that out together. What you mean? And so I just tell him about my attack. And he's like, my anxiety attack, the bathroom, the whole math situation. Anyway, um, and oh my goodness, I forgot to tell y'all. After all that went down, like after we had the little discussion, like prior to seeing that first initial therapist after that week to month period, I eventually did have to go back to class. And all of my friends were like, Anna, where were you? Without missing a beat, I was like, oh yeah, I had serious diarrhea. Miss Girl, what? What are we doing right now? And I don't know how. I said it with a straight face too, and everyone was just like, "Oh, that's nasty." I was like, "Yeah, it was bad, girl." Oh my goodness. But one thing about me too, I would say now too, but especially when I was little, I had such a strong like morality. I could not tell a white lie to save my life. Like I was like, "No, this is so bad." So the lie lasts maybe an hour, and I pull my friends aside because at this point my classmates were asking too. But I just pulled my friends aside and was like, "Guys, it wasn't diarrhea. I was just crying." And they're like, I knew it. And I was like, girl, what you mean you didn't believe the diarrhea lie? It could have been real. It's happened before. Different recess. But anyway, back to Jimmy's office. And so we're yapping, whatever. And so I tell him, oh, I think the attack is why I'm here. He's like, no, that's not right. And I was like, first of all, huh? What do you mean that's not right? But okay. He goes, no, why are you here? What's the problem? And I was like, again, I don't know. Had I known, we would have worked through that. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, well, I feel anxious a lot of the times. He's like, think harder. And I'm like, what are, okay, I I like to do well in school. And he's like, so everyone puts pressure on you. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I don't know about that. I was like, sir, what are we doing right now? He's like, it's probably internal. You know those neural pathways in the brain? It's kind of like a hallway opening doors. And I'm like, don't talk to me about no hallway. I immediately start getting PTSD. I'm like, no, I can't. Mind you, he starts with a metaphor, but then he starts getting into like really specific neural brain chemistry. I don't even know. And I'm like, listen, I am in fact a sixth grader. And the budget for my school for the science department was a literal joke. And my teacher specifically liked math way more. So we spent probably like an hour and a half on math and 30 minutes on science in our 2 hour period with her. Which, like, so valid because I don't really like science, TBH. I don't know what to tell you there. So sorry to all the scientists out there, but which is ironic now because I'm literally in the College of Science. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's still math. I think they're separate, even though some people don't. I don't care. But anyway, shoot, where was I going with that? Oh, right. The neural pathways or whatever. And I'm like, no, sir, I actually don't know that. And then I start feeling anxious and stupid because I'm like, well, should I know that? And I'm like, you're just contributing to the problem. Like, it's making it so much worse. And so I left, and my dad's like, well, how'd it go? And I was like, well, that was awful. I will not be back. And he's like, Anna, it's literally the first session. Like, you have to give Jimmy a chance. Like, maybe it was just one bad thing. And I was like, you know what? That's fair. Okay. So I make another appointment and I go back and we're talking again. And I don't think he talked about neural pathways this time, shoot, maybe we talked about neurotransmitters instead, but it still was not a super helpful thing for me. Like, and he sat so weird in his chair, it just made me feel so uncomfortable. I don't know. Me and Jimmy, we were not kikiing. Let me just tell you that. We was not friends. And I don't know. I just feel like I left all of the sessions feeling worse than when I started. And not worse in the sense that, like, oh, I realized this about myself and that opened up something ugly, but at least now I can start to work through that. That's constructively, unfortunate. This was just unfortunate. So I didn't know where to go from there. And so eventually I just keep telling my dad, like, I don't think this is helpful. And he's like, okay, we do need to work through this though. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. I just don't know how. Don't know what to tell you there. And so he agrees to let me not go to him anymore. And I had to start talking, like, to my family, basically, about what was going on and things like that. And to their credit, a lot of them wanted to help me, which, shout out, love y'all for that. but it made it a lot worse because they're not, trained to do that. And so the questions, or like the way they would probe me, was very not what I needed, if that makes sense. So it did get a lot worse. And initially, it was primarily directed toward academics, but then it very quickly spread to athletics as well. Oh, good golly. That's a whole nother story. But basically, I had exercise induced asthma on top of my chronic anxiety. So I literally could not breathe most of the time because I was crying, either from, not being able to breathe from a physical standpoint or from the anxiety of the game or the pressure or whatever. Not a great situation. Um I will say this, I have not been back since then, so I'm sure there's a lot of that I still need to work through, but I eventually found different ways that worked for me. Um Pro tip, if any of y'all are curious, keep in mind though, every person is different. There's no one secret fix. If there was, shoot, none of us would be anxious anymore. But for me, what worked was calling my anxiety Annie. So, like, I don't know, there'd be a quiz or something, and I would start feeling really nervous in the shower, and I'd be like, Annie, get away. You are not invited here. This is no place for you. And like, it sounds stupid, but like, the stupider it was, the more it made me laugh. And I was like, wait, shoot, this is a mind game. Like, literally. Like, if my brain is the problem, why can't my brain be the solution? Shoot. And so that worked for me. And then I'm also a very religious person. So I would talk to God about it. Mind you, at this point, we didn't really have a relationship. Like, I was a Christian, but I didn't have a relationship with God. So like, praying to me was just like, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Which, like, it's important or whatever. But now, like, the way that I approach prayer, shoot, God and I, we besties. Shoot, we talk about everything. We talk about my fit in the morning, what I should have for lunch. Like, the relationship's a lot better, so it was easier for me to kind of talk about what I need and how I can submit that to him and his role in that. If that makes sense, I don't know. It's kind of specific to who you are, but I would recommend, of course. But, that's not for everybody. I'm not trying to shove that down y'all's throats. That is your thing to navigate. Religion is your choice. And you can say no. That's the beauty of having autonomy, slay, and free will. But anyway, that's primarily what I use now and what works for me. So I wouldn't say anxiety impedes my daily life anymore, slay, but do I get anxious? I mean, yeah, of course, sometimes, but it's significantly improved. I don't know if I can attribute that to therapy, though, unfortunately. I will say, though, I am willing to find a different therapist and continue to work through that. Oh, I love a side quest and one that would improve my well-being. Absolutely sign me up. So if y'all have a referral, something that works for y'all, shoot, I'd be interested. But anyway, that was experience number 1. And then we have oh my goodness, the most traumatic thing in my life, which is, pretty competition there. My father passed away, and so at this point, all my family's like, where do we go from here? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, let's go see Jimmy. No, because why did that come out of my mouth? I did not have a single positive interaction with Jimmy, right? But I was like, well, he's the only therapist that I know. And so I was like, yeah, you can come meet him. And so I bring the whole family. And Jimmy's like, oh, this is the squad, whatever. I was like, yeah. And so, oh my goodness, I will never forget what he said. So he sits us down and we're just talking, whatever. He's asking pretty basic questions. And then he starts looking at all of us individually and just goes down the line. He starts with my mom and he goes, you will remarry in 2 to 3 years. And then he goes to my sister, my older one, and she's like, he goes, you will retain some memories of your father since you're old enough. Then he looks at me, he goes, pretty much same thing, but definitely fewer. Okay? Goes to my younger sister, you will retain probably very little memories of your father. And then he finally gets to my brother, which is the youngest, and he goes, you will slowly forget his voice, you will forget who he was, you will forget his character, and ultimately you'll forget who he was entirely. Mind you, this happened like a month ago. What in the world? At this point, we're gagged. I have no words for him. I'm staring. I'm like, Jimmy, I brought my family to you, and this is how you repay me? After everything you've put me through. Jimmy J, what are we doing, big dog? Oh, my goodness. And so we leave the session, and everyone's like, yeah, we're never coming back here. And I was like, slay, I'm free from Jimmy. You know what I do? Okay. But no, in that moment, I was just like, why in the world would you say that? And one thing about me too, I love a fun fact. And so I started Googling, like, is there any validity in any of that? And to his credit, there's like, I think a statistic where it's like 50 to 70%, I forget the exact number, remarry within 2 to 3 years. Baby, life is not statistics. Okay, I would know. Shoot, I'm studying that. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my goodness. Why are we generalizing to the entire population? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't subscribe to that personally, but that was just horrifying. And so my mom was like, "Yeah, we're going to go seek out help elsewhere." And I was like, "What a great idea." So I can't remember if she got a referral or if she just did some of her own research. I think she had a friend who did grief counseling somewhere. I don't know. But we pull up to this lady's office. This woman, have you guys you can't answer what am I saying? But anyway, if you've seen Despicable Me, Gru's mom, first of all, iconic, but her hair is like stacked up in a way. This is what that woman looked like, except make it Barbie. I don't know. She was just so like, she was T. I'm not even gonna lie. I saw her at the YMCA one time. My jaw hit the floor. I was like, oh, because she's like 70, but she has the hair of like a 20-year-old, but like also Gru's mom's hair, and she's so like teeny weeny. I don't understand, but I was gagged when I saw her. I was like, oh my goodness, who is this lady? Whatever. Anyway, and so we do a family session first, and she sits us all down. She does not tell us that we're gonna lose all memories of our father. Let's go. And we start talking about like how we can contribute around the house. So I would say her session was actually a lot more productive because we left with like tangible things and actions that we needed to do or things to consider. So I was like, okay, we love a girly with a plan and an agenda. Give me the assignment. You know I'm finna do that. Trust, okay? Anyway, and so we're all like, well, who can step up and cook? Who's gonna take out the trash? La da da, whatever. Mind you, we didn't stick with any of that, but at least she was trying, and there was at least some like facilitation, if that makes sense. Jimmy J didn't know what he was doing, but anyway, in my professional opinion, if any of you happen to know Jimmy and love him, you know what? I hope he helps you. I genuinely hope he does. You know what I'm saying? But me and Jimmy are not friends. Anyway, and so then my mom talked to me and was like, "What do you think of the session?" And I was like, "I thought it was really beneficial." Keep in mind, I went with my little siblings. And at this point, because we're realistically, my younger sister is 3 years younger than me. And then my younger brother is about 5 years younger than me. So, in the grand scheme of life, that's not a huge gap. But developmentally, I was a freshman in high school, and my little sister was a sixth grader, and my little brother was a fourth grader. So, like, high school versus borderline elementary school, that's a big cognitive gap. And so, she was kind of directing the conversation more towards them. And so for me, I was like, I didn't feel like I got personalized, helpful help, basically. I don't really know what to say. But I thought for them, like maybe it was more beneficial or whatever. And so I was like, I kind of want to keep looking to find somebody else who can kind of talk to me at my level, if that makes sense. And she was like, yeah, no, I think that's valid. And so my mom continued to meet with her, and then the therapist also met with my little brother and my little sister, but they were not receptive to therapy. They didn't really want to do it. I don't want to say they weren't receptive, but they didn't enjoy the sessions, if that makes sense. Well, I mean, who would? They're little kids. And so what they would do is they would go on little dates. And so I think she took them to Orange Leaf, which is like a frozen yogurt place. And so they would eat their froyo and do their sessions there. And I was supposed to keep looking, but then I was like, why am I responsible for finding my like this? So I don't know. I felt a lot of the burden when I would have just turned like 14. I was like, there's so much in my life right now. I'm starting high school. Like, I don't want to process this right now, which not healthy, but understandable. And so I did not actually seek an additional therapist after that. I just, again, turned to Jesus and was like, God, we got a situation. I don't know what's happening right now. And so I used is crazy. I talked to God about the situation, and that was kind of like my therapy, if that makes sense. And then my mom saw that therapist for a little while. I don't think she does anymore. I think she's trying to seek out somebody else. But I think after a year, maybe it was 6 months, we all just stopped completely and then never really got on that again. Mind you, we definitely should. Oh, we 100% should do that. And so, yeah. But I don't blame her for that. I just don't think she was the right fit for me. Kind of like with the first girl therapist I had in 6th grade. Like, I don't think it was a her issue. I think it was just not the right fit, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's the tea with my therapy sessions. Lots going down, especially with Jimmy. But yeah, again, all that being said, I am very pro therapy. I think therapy is a beautiful thing. I think it's great for, even if like nothing is technically wrong in your life, like you don't have to have something traumatic happen to you to go to therapy. It's just a great space to learn more about who you are and just have like self-awareness, and that way you know how you best learn, interact with people. You can just better understand yourself, and the more you understand yourself, the more you can start to understand other people and just connect with people. Like, I think it's just, it opens up so many different avenues that I think are so beneficial in literally every area of your life. So if y'all have any recommendations, know anybody, referrals, shoot them my way. I would love to get back into therapy. I know they have some resources on campus. I'm not going to lie, have not heard the best things, but I also know they do outside referrals. So I could look into that as well. I don't know, but I need to get back on that grind, y'all. Shoot. Need to learn more about myself. But yeah, that's pretty much going to cover it for today in the therapy episode. Yeah, if you're thinking about therapy, I definitely say give it a whirl. I know a lot of times they'll do free consultations or like relatively cheap ones just so you can kind of get to know people. And especially in this age now too, there's so many like options online. I know some people can text therapy if you're not a big like in-person kind of thing, if you get anxious about that kind of stuff. But I don't know, there's so many different possibilities now, so I say go for it. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch y'all next time.